The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Welcome, everybody, to W2Mnet.com's MMA to the Max. My name is Robert Taylor. I'm your host, and I will be joined with my co-host, Joseph Hudson, on every show from here on in. Joe, say hello.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast.
So what everybody may not know is Joseph Hudson is my cousin. I've known him, obviously, my entire life. We are lifelong MMA fans. We started out as wrestling fans. Obviously, he's a little older than me, so he started out a little earlier than I did. We both grew into a passion of MMA, especially the UFC, as a lot of you have. And this podcast that we're going to start for the W2Mnet.com network, we are going to start reviewing UFC fights almost weekly, depending on when they have it scheduled. This is our very first one for UFC 213 on July 8th, 2017. Originally supposed to be Amanda Nunes versus Valentina Shevchenko, Part 2. As anybody that followed news earlier knows, that changed at the very last second.
Robert, just I hate to butt in. I don't want to interrupt, but I got a update, a quick message here from my inside sources. I heard Aunt Flo came to visit early, and she had to pull out.
I think some of our female listeners might be a little upset with that comment, but
no, I understand it. You know, I'm giving Nunes a pass on this one.
I'm going to give her a pass because we've seen a lot of people jump onto fighters' backs because of the reasons they have to pull out, and most notably Jose Aldo with the first Conor McGregor fight. Turned out he really did have a broken rib.
Absolutely.
I'm going to give her a pass until the next 48 hours to see exactly why she pulled out. She was cleared by doctors, but she did pull out anyway, saying she wasn't feeling well enough to fight. Michael Bisping, on the other hand, said that give some time, something might come out later that we don't know. So I'm inclined to give her a pass, as much as I'm upset about it.
No, I would definitely give her a pass. People who compete at the highest level of MMA in the UFC are not going to back down because they have a little tummy flu or have a headache. She's a champion for a reason, and if she backed out of a fight, it's for legit purposes. I'm sure, like Bisping said, it'll all come out in the wash.
Absolutely agree. At the same time, I'm very upset that I missed this fight because I am a huge Valentina Shevchenko fan. Although I scored the first fight between her and Nunes as a 29-28 for Nunes, I recognize the fact that Shevchenko was taken over in the third round, and if that had gone to a fourth or fifth round, Amanda Nunes never would have had that title shot against Miesha Tate at UFC 200.
Yeah, this is true, and in fact, if the new scoring system was in place, the third round, in my mind, would have been a 10-8, and it would have been a draw. I think she completely dominated that third round, and she would do in the fourth and fifth round in a championship fight. So I, too, scored it for Shevchenko in my mind.
Absolutely. On the other hand, though, we still got a great main event, which in my mind and a lot of people's mind was the true main event because it was the fight to determine who was the best middleweight in the entire world. I know Michael Bisping does have the middleweight championship. None of us actually bought into his reign, no matter how.
What do you mean none of us bought into his reign? Hold up. I'm not going to let you poo-poo on my man Bisping like that. Come on.
How many of us actually How many of us actually bought Bisping beating Luke Rockhold? How many of us actually thought he would beat it outside of a fluke?
It wasn't a fluke. If you go back and watch the fight again, Bisping was throwing that overhand left repeatedly. He knew that Rockhold drops his right hand. He knew when he backs away. He knew what he was doing. That was not a fluke. That was a well-timed, perfectly placed punch that KO'd a very good but cocky Luke Rockhold.
No, absolutely, and then that was the key word right there that you threw out was cocky. I think that Luke Rockhold is a far better fighter than Michael Bisping. The problem is that Luke Rockhold knew that he was a far better fighter than Michael Bisping, and he fought like he thought he was a far better fighter than Michael Bisping, and he was way too cocky. The Luke Rockhold that fought him the first time never would have got caught by that shot. Michael Bisping was a product of timing and another person's over cockiness, and that's why he's the champion.
Scoreboard, baby. Just look at who's got the belt. Who defended their belt? You can't say Luke Rockhold's ever defended his belt. We don't have to talk about who they defended it to, how old they are, or whatnot. I'm just saying, Lee Bisping's defended his belt.
Absolutely. I cannot argue with that. That is a very, very, very solid point. He is the middleweight champion. He did defend his title. However, let's talk about the man he is looking to defend his title next. Everybody was assuming it was going to be George St. Pierre. As soon as we found out that George St. Pierre was not going to be ready in time to fight at UFC 213 like they were planning, as soon as Dana White changed his mind on that, Michael Bisping pulled out with an alleged knee injury. I'm going to give him the benefit of doubt because he's always fought on short notice, and whoever came before. So in the meantime, we got number 1 contender Yoel Romero versus number 3 contender Robert Whittaker for the interim middleweight title at UFC 13, originally co-main event. Moved in the main event after the aforementioned Nunes pullout. Going into the fight, Romero started out as the favorite. Eventually, the bettors came in, put it at Robert Whittaker, and when the fight started, it was a legitimate pick-em at minus 115 in Vegas for each. How'd you see the fight going in?
Before the fight started, I thought that Romero would do what he does, kind of stay on the outside, pick his times for explosiveness. Whittaker, as an outside striker, a guy who uses footwork and timing, I thought he was going to use Romero's own strategy against him and piece him apart. I thought by 4th round, Whittaker would have done enough damage to put Romero away. That was my original thought on this fight.
What did you have predicted? You had a 4th round TKO, I believe?
4th round TKO for Whittaker.
Okay, I was kind of with you on that. I had Romero in the 4th round TKO, though, because I have this thing with Yoel Romero.
It's not Stoolgate, because that's kind of something I got with Romero.
Yeah, no. I had this thing with Yoel Romero, and a lot of it was excuse me, I'm burping. I should let everybody know that this podcast is being recorded right after the fight, after we both had some people over at our respective houses drinking some beer. I am drinking a Stone IPA from San Diego, Southern California. So what I had with Romero is I thought Romero would take it, because the thing with Romero, and Chael Sonnen kind of solidified this idea in my head on one of his recent podcasts, is Yoel Romero, and just like the Cuban wrestling team, they don't do more than they have to win any type of fight, even a wrestling match. You could be the best wrestler in the world. They will beat you by 1 point because that's all they have to do. You could be the worst wrestler in the world. They will beat you by 1 point because that's all they have to do. And throughout Yoel Romero's MMA career, that's all he's had to do. Everybody talked about his cardio, or I should say lack thereof. But he has a shit ton of 3rd round finishes. Why? Because he knows when he has to finish the fight. He knows what he has to do. Case in point, Derek Brunson, Tim Kennedy, minus Stoolgate.
That's got to have an asterisk on it.
I think that was just a mix-up. I really do, because he went on to do the same thing to Chris Weidman, the former middleweight champion of the world. Yeah. And to me, Yoel Romero was the scariest middleweight in the world. And I still do think, regardless of the outcome of this fight, he is the scariest middleweight in the world if he's just able to do what he needs to do. And what I am saying when I say that is because Yoel Romero had Robert Whittaker hurt. His leg was coming out from under him. It was destroyed. He buckled it numerous times in the 1st round. Robert Whittaker was limping to the cage, to his corner.
I believe he told his corner that his knee was fucked.
He said it was destroyed. It was done. Yep. So what did Yoel Romero do?
Stop kicking the knee.
Exactly. Thank you. So Yoel Romero is still the scariest middleweight in the division, but he's not the smartest.
Well, I think that goes back to what you're talking about. If you're saying that the Cuban wrestling team as a whole, according to Chael Sonnen, does just what it takes to win the fight, or get the point, the last point. Well, I think Yoel Romero did, okay, my job is to beat up his front leg. Oh, I beat it up and he stopped. It's that go for the kill instinct that I thought, that I thought Whittaker had over Romero, and that's why I picked Whittaker to take the fight. I thought he had more of that, blood in the water shark, mentality. And then again, Romero kind of just sits on the outside, waits for an explosive moment, and just doesn't have that, you know what I mean? That drive, that finishing.
Totally agree. Let me ask you this question before we move on, though, Mr. Hudson. Would you have picked Robert Whittaker if this fight was booked before what Robert Whittaker did to Ronaldo Jacare Souza?
I think I would have, but maybe with a little bit more hesitation and thought behind it. I think Whittaker was definitely one of the up-and-coming fighters. In fact, when they were talking about Whittaker versus Weidman, as Weidman's comeback fight and a tune-up fight, I was opposed to that as being a tune-up fight because I've always believed Whittaker has just outstanding distance and range control. He likes to keep people on the outside of his jab. In the fifth round there, the push kicks that Whittaker was throwing against Yoel Romero really stole that round and kept Romero at bay and really took a part of his cardio out. So with all that in mind, even without him beating Jacare, if it was against Romero, I would have picked him a little bit more hesitantly than before, but still would have picked him.
That Jacare fight really opened mine and a lot of people's eyes, especially a lot of people in our little pick'em group, because I don't think anybody actually picked Whittaker, even though they kind of wanted, they were thinking and wanting, maybe this guy could pull it off, but Jacare is one of the best in the world. Nobody actually, I think, picked him, but that was an amazing fight. And Whittaker now deserves everything he's gotten. Going up from middleweight, 2-2 record in the middleweight division, and moving up into 2-2 record in the welterweight division, moving up to the middleweight division, coming off of a loss. Or coming off of a win, pardon me, everybody. Mm-hmm. Coming off a win in the welterweight division, deciding to move up because he didn't like the weight cut, and going now 7-0, including winning the interim middleweight title. That's legit in my mind. That Bobby Knuckles, as they call him, is legit.
He is legit.
However, I have to say this, and I mentioned this to you earlier. Stylistically, I think Romero's still a little harder fight for Michael Bisping. I think Robert Whittaker plays a lot into Bisping's game with the kickboxing. I think obviously Whittaker has the power, but I think Bisping has the volume, the speed, and the technical striking to beat Robert Whittaker and retain his title, whereas I think somebody like Yoel Romero with his explosiveness, his wrestling, would have been able to get Michael Bisping out of there within 2.5 rounds.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think on the feet, technique, speed, volume, distance management, I would give that to Bisping over Whittaker. But what I would give over to Whittaker also is takedown defense. And that was one of the things that opened up all of our eyes against Jacare, was his ability to stay on his feet, to scramble, to create space, to fight against a takedown. So with that said, I give him the advantage on takedown defense over Bisping. I think Bisping does get taken down against real good wrestlers. His fight against Tim Kennedy kind of showed that. So I think, Romero would have been more of a challenge to Bisping than Whittaker will be. But I'm still looking forward to that fight. Like, that's going to be two of the best technical strikers in the UFC going at it. That's going to be fantastic.
So out of a scale of 1 to 10, the odds on Bisping fighting Whittaker over GSP, with 10 being the most obvious, the highest score you could give that he's going to fight Whittaker, and 1 being the lowest that he's actually going to fight GSP instead of Whittaker, what would you give that? Because personally, I tend to think he's going to wait for GSP. GSP's been calling him out. I'm going to say it's at a 1 for me, 100%. Bisping's going to wait and fight GSP.
Yeah, I'm going to say that, and I'm going to give it 2 reasons. As mentioned earlier, Whittaker's knee is fucked. He needs to heal his knee now. So his interim title is going to be on hold for the title against GSP and Bisping to go down. And then Whittaker will fight the winner of that fight sometime early next year.
Absolutely agree. Okay. So moving on. Now, this would have been the second fight we talked about of the night after the original main event. But since it became the new main event, we're going to move on to the heavyweight bout between the number 1 ranked Fabricio Verdun, former UFC heavyweight champion, and the first man to legitimately finish or even beat Fedor Emelianenko, any longtime fans would know how much that should be respected, versus the number 3 ranked heavyweight Alistair, the Demolition Man Overeem. I don't give a shit what his nickname is. He will always be the Demolition Man to me because that is more badass.
Then Uberreem? I mean, TRT, let's do it.
Come on, man. The Demolition Man was one of the most badass nicknames in UFC or just in MMA history to me. I will have
to agree with you 100% on that.
I'm so upset he got rid of that and just went for the Ream.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
a stack of paper.
It's just aesthetic, but I mean, come on. So
a Ream is a stack of paper. A Demolition Man is actually going to do something. So
exactly, it sounds badass. And this is the Demolition Man that destroyed Brock Lesnar. Now, obviously, that doesn't look as great in hindsight, thanks to Brock Lesnar's illness. However, and then the fact that Overeem went on this run where he was getting knocked out left and right by some Antonio Silva, Travis Brown, Ben Rothwell. The man moved to Greg Jackson's camp. And aside from the Stipe Overeem fight for the title, where he did drop the champion, eventually getting finished, the man has been looking pretty fucking good.
He's been looking fantastic. In fact, his fight against Mark Hunt really, really surprised me. The way he was able to control him positionally, hold him against the cage, and just rain down knees that obviously ended that fight. So I think the move to Greg Jackson's was the best thing for Overeem. It's taught him to be a patient fighter, to be a more technical fighter, and to pick and choose when he explodes. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I got you. Absolutely. This fight was looking like a wash as we were watching it. I believe we were talking about it during the fight. We both had it 2018 Overeem in the second round. After the second round,
yep.
And it was
how'd you score the third?
Well, that's what I was about to get to. It was looking like it was about to be Overeem just cruising to a decision. All of a sudden, Verdum drops him. Overeem looking in trouble. And then, I don't know what happened. Overeem he managed to survive. This is not the Overeem that we knew before. He survived. This is the man that would get dropped and he was done. And I know Overeem's not like the greatest striker, but his striking was looking very good up until that Stipe Miocic title fight where he just ran at him with his chin up, arms extended. But he was dropping people with his striking, including Mark Hunt with a flying knee. Overeem was looking good. He could not finish. Verdum was looking good. He could not finish Overeem, though. He dropped him. He couldn't do it. I had the fight 29-28 Overeem, and I was actually really surprised that one of the judges gave it a draw 28-28.
I'm looking at that, and I could see the 28-28. It doesn't seem that far-fetched to me because Overeem did nothing, threw a couple feints, a couple punches. Verdum dropped him and jumped on top of him. He didn't do much on top, but Overeem spent the entire round on his back, not being offensive, just basically trying to sit there and weather out the beating he took, in the first 30 seconds of that round. So I can see the 28-28. That's in fact how I scored it.
The reason why I can't see the 28-28 is because they made a point to say that Nevada has not adopted new rules, which also includes the new judging criteria, where a 10-8 would be a little more liberal. So in a sense that, hey, you know what? Nothing happened in this round, so to speak, aside from Overeem getting dropped by Verdum. Yeah, give him the 10-8 because he did drop him and he was on top. But unfortunately, they didn't adopt the new rules, which I think is fucking ridiculous, and I want to go on a side tangent right here. And I want to say that these new rules are fucking ridiculous, not because of the fact that I do agree with the rules. I absolutely agree with these new rules. They should be implemented everywhere. The fact that all these commissions want to try to play fucking hardball and try to say, well, we didn't come up with them, so we're not going to adopt them. We want to try to protect the fighters, which is an entire fucking bunch of bullshit.
How do the new rules not protect the fighters? I think they incentivize fighters to fight harder because, again, if you want to look at the new rules, maybe that first round was a 10-10, right? So we still end up with the draw.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So that would be a good thing. As far as protecting the fighters with knees to a grounded opponent, okay, fingertips brushing the canvas, you're not a grounded opponent. Now you're playing a ticky-tacky game. Put some weight on that. Don't use that hand to your advantage. That protects the fighters and makes for more exciting fights.
Absolutely.
So fighters aren't getting hurt for no reason. They're putting their hand down. They're actually going to let themselves be grounded. the new rules I'm entirely in favor of, and any commission that hasn't adopted them is, like you say, it's political reasons. It's got to be something other than they're not good rules, because they're fantastic rules.
And honestly, I don't think the new rules even go far enough. Honestly, I swear to God, I'm not trying to like forego fighter safety, but this bullshit about the fucking palms down, that you can, even with the palms down, you can't knee a person in the face. But you can knee them in the face when they're standing up, when they're hunched over. What is the fucking difference? You can pull them up and knee them in the face. What is the difference? What is the difference between knee him in the face because you pulled him up or because he has his hands down? Let me ask you a question. What is the difference between kicking a guy in the fucking face as hard as you can when he's standing up versus kicking the guy in the face when he's laying down? Granted, he has less defense, but at the same time, I could argue he has more defense because he can huddle up. Now, I'm not saying
Roger Huerta how that
yeah, exactly.
That counts, man.
Yeah.
But that
I'm
was
saying to
wrong.
legalize. I'm not saying to legalize soccer kicks, but at least when it comes to knees, knees should be legal regardless of where the fighter is at, in my opinion.
Well, I'm gonna steal from Joe Rogan on this one. One of the reasons he says that soccer kicks and knees to a grounded opponent are illegal in the UFC is because of the cage. If you got someone pinned against the cage, they have nowhere to move their head, and that's going to be some very severe brain damage, possibly serious injuries.
Absolutely, I totally agree with that. I see that. I agree with that assessment. I totally agree. But at the same time, I'm going to kind of paraphrase another thing that Joe Rogan said when it comes to takedowns. And I'm going to kind of apply it to the knees against the cage. What Joe Rogan was saying about takedowns. If a guy like Sean Sherk can take you down and hold you down for 15 minutes, too fucking bad. Figure out a way to get up. So if a guy can take you against the cage and knee you against the face, too fucking bad. Figure out a way to get out of there.
Well, I think part of the problem with that is, okay, you got a guy who's been stunned. You rock him against the cage. He falls down. He's not intelligently defending himself at that point, and you jump in with knees to his face when his head is pinned against the cage and the canvas. Look, fighting is fighting, and these guys know what they're in for. So if they want to have that rule, let them have it. But as an outsider, I can see from my position on the couch where that seems brutal and more than a guy should take. I'm just playing devil's advocate on this.
No, I absolutely agree. I could totally see that side. I totally. The funny thing is, I totally agree with that side. But at the same time, I have my own opinions on it, and I mean, I'm so for rules when it comes to MMA. But at the same time, you know, it's some of the rules are so weird because of the fact that you can get hit, you can get kicked in the back of the head by a hook kick. Or a question mark kick.
Heel.
Yeah, but you can't get hit in the back of the head. Now, I'm not advocating getting hit in the back of the head, letting people just fucking hit in the back of the head, because that's dangerous as fuck.
Yeah.
But it should probably be looked at as like, maybe, you know, let it go a couple times. Because back of the head's back of the head. I don't care if it's a kicker. I mean, it's back of the head, you know, and the same thing with the knees. So at the same time, I get it, fighter safety, they want to see it and all that, but so basically, and I know Rogan himself has also talked about a fighting league in a football stadium.
Yeah, no gloves and all that. Yeah,
with no gloves and all that, no rules, yeah. So, but I like the idea of getting rid of knees to the grounded opponent because of the fact that it does allow wrestlers to also hold on to legs. You get rid of that knee into the grounded opponent like Fry did. And if you're going to hold on to the leg, good luck, motherfucker. You're getting kneed in the fucking face, which would have happened tonight with Romero versus Whittaker. When Romero was holding on his leg, Whittaker could have kneed him in the fucking face. And that fight would have been finished.
It could have been. And that would have helped me out in our league, too, because I had the finish for Whittaker. So I would have taken that one in a heartbeat.
We will plug this league for next year pretty soon.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on.
Yes, sir.
To a man that I've been watching for a very long time, and I actually was one of the idiots, I believe, in the world to pick him when he debuted in the UFC against one of the scariest, biggest, blackest heavyweights in the entire world, Francis Ngannou, and mostly because I think his name is fucking awesome.
Yeah. You like
Curtis
it?
Blades.
Razor Blades.
Razor Blades. This man in his last fight absolutely destroyed his opponent. Excuse me if I don't remember his name right now off the top of my head. But he's the reason he only has a no contest on his record, because I believe his name is Adam Milstead. It just popped in my head. Thank you.
There you go. Good job.
He destroyed him. Now, it was a knee injury from what I remember, but Blades destroyed him. Unfortunately, Blades tested for marijuana metabolites, which is fucking
What?
Yeah, I know. We're in Southern California. Some of this country may not get this. In Southern California, along with the entire state of California and the rest of the West Coast, we don't give a fuck about marijuana. It's not a performance enhancer. It is whatever. So the fact that the commission still tests for that and overturn wins for that is fucking insane and fucking retarded.
Oh yeah, what they did to Nick Diaz. I mean, come on, 5-year suspension because the dude smoked a little bit of weed before his fight.
Well, I'm not even the biggest Diaz fan. When they tried to say 5 years.
5 years.
Weed.
It was 2 years if he had steroids in his system, but 5 years if he has weed? Like, really?
Nevada State Athletic Commission could suck my dick for that one. Yeah. By the way, there was we are not censored here, just so you know. Anyways, so we are going to go with Curtis Blades, who I think is one of the best heavyweight fighters in the world. He's a prospect. He's a project. He needs to work on his striking, but his wrestling is outstanding. His only loss, like I said, is to Francis Ngannou, who I believe is the next UFC heavyweight champion. That man is a scary motherfucking Frenchie. He is what everybody hoped that Czech Congo would have been.
Yeah, I think so, dude.
Yeah. So, but Curtis Blades, absolutely, to me, wrestling-wise, dominated this fight. However, Almalenchik hung in there a lot better than I thought he would.
Well, his takedown defense was phenomenal. I was surprised by that. He didn't get taken down once in a sloppy takedown. Everything he did was right. Pummeling for the underhooks when he needed to, lifting the hands above his waist, pushing everything he did was leaps and bounds above what I thought he was going to do. His fight against Timothy Johnson showed that his takedown defense wasn't that great, and he really worked on it in preparation for Blades, dude. So all hands off to, can I say his first or last? Daniel. Yeah, that's easier than his.
It is a little harder. Almalenchik. It is a little harder.
Yeah.
The only reason I know how to pronounce it is because of Kenny Florian and Dominic Cruz,
okay.
who I think are two of the best analysts in the game, and Brian Stan, of course, obviously, but
phenomenal,
one of the best commentators. I think
tonight's team was great with Annex, Stan, and Rogan. I really enjoyed that combination.
You know what? This might make a lot of people that might listen to this very upset with me. I'm not a fan of Rogan's commentary. I recognize the fact that Rogan is like the voice of the UFC in a sense that just like Mike Goldberg was, but just like Mike Goldberg, take him or leave him. Love his fight companions, man, but I just don't. He brings a lot of like excitement to it, like, oh, he got him. But you just do you learn anything from him like you do from Stan or Cruz?
Are you kidding me? I learned everything I know from Mr. Rogan. Look, you definitely learn a lot.
Take off those rose-colored glasses and recognize that Brian Stan and Dominic Cruz are better than Joe Rogan at Joe Rogan's job.
They are better than Joe Rogan because they've actually been inside the octagon. But what Joe Rogan does bring to the podcast, and you can call me a crotch rider or whatever you want, but I think what Rogan brings to it is knowledge and excitement. And Stan and Florian and Dominic Cruz are phenomenal. But again, one of the things that made them great fighters is their ability to keep their emotions away. So that's why I think it's good to have that third seat with either of those two gentlemen. Rogan brings also expertise and knowledge as well as the excitement that you get from an entertainer like a stand-up comedian does. And you still get that good breakdown, that technical talk of, hey, when you're in the cage, when this is going on. And Rogan's done nothing but show those two gentlemen respect as they rightfully deserve. So to me, the three-man combination is the way to go, like boxing's been doing for decades now.
I have no argument for that. I totally agree. I don't want them to get rid of Rogan. I hated Mike Goldberg. I'm one of those people. I did not like his commentary. I actually prefer John Anik. Then again, I'm going to say something that's a little more unpopular with a lot of these MMA fans. I am a fan more of Joe Martinez over Bruce Buffer. That may be my WEC love, but I'm a Martinez guy, so maybe that might have something to do with it. So
maybe. I love Martinez as well. WC Days was great. I think he's a great announcer when they get him in there. But I also love Buffer because, again, I didn't start watching the UFC until 2001, so that's the guy I'm used to seeing in there, you know. So.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, you have, it's time versus which to me is the calling card of Joe Martinez, the California Kid. So let's move on to the next part. Yeah, exactly. Let's move on to the next. I'm actually pretty upset that they didn't call Joe Martinez to commentate, or not to commentate. Sorry, to announce Uriah Faber's last fight.
Yeah,
Brad Pickett, just to say it one last time. I had tweeted. Cheap plug here. I had tweeted Joe Martinez and asked him about it. He retweeted it and replied and said he just never was asked, which is really sad. I would think that Uriah Faber would be like, hey, man, this is the guy that fucking called my career. So, anyways, we're going to move on.
Pettis, Miller
versus Anthony Pettis making his return to the lightweight division after a very, very unsuccessful bid in the featherweight division. He got lucky to me against Charles Oliveira because he had lost the first 2 rounds until he caught that choke. And obviously we know what Max Holloway did to him, which shouldn't be surprising because Max Holloway is Max Holloway. However, Jim Miller would have been the type of fighter. Yeah, exactly. I can't wait till they go to Hawaii. I hope they do. Jim Miller should have been the exact type of fighter that could give it to Anthony Pettis, judging by his history. He's the pressure type fighter and the grinder. Unfortunately, either Jim Miller did not do his game plan or Anthony Pettis has gotten better. Which do you think it is?
I think Anthony Pettis has gotten better, and I think Jim Miller, as great of a fighter as he is, and a phenomenal fighter, he seems a little shop-worn today.
Totally agree.
I had, from the get-go, I had Pettis pick via decision. Going on, the strength of schedule, the guys he's fought, how he's fought them against Miller, who's always been up in the the upper tier, but never fought the number 3, number 2, number 1 champion. But as we got closer to the fight, I started thinking about Clay Guida and what he did to Pettis, and then how Miller's a pressure fighter, a guy who moves forward, who doesn't let you set your feet. Ultimately, I didn't change my pick, and Jim Miller didn't pressure like he normally does. Something was off, I think.
Yeah, no, totally agree. I had Pettis by decision as well. I was really torn on this because of the fact, like I just said in the intro to the fight, Jim Miller usually is this type of pressure fighter. He is that type of guy that can pressure Pettis, who I wouldn't say historically, but just in the UFC had problem with pressure. I thought Miller would be able to press him against the cage, kind of like Eddie Alvarez did, and hold him there. Obviously, Eddie Alvarez is a little stronger than Jim Miller. Yeah. I think my problem with Pettis, and I think it's been ever since he won the title, and I know he defended against Gilbert Melendez, he just doesn't look loose ever in his fights. He really doesn't.
Loose tonight. He did look loose tonight.
In the third round, he looked better than he's looked, but it wasn't until the third round when he loosened up. I think, like you said, it's more of a shop-worn Miller.
Yeah, I think that has a little bit to do with it. Miller's been in a lot of wars, put in a lot of cage time, and but I think Pettis also opened up and realized his gas tank was there. Like he mentioned, cutting weight to 145 was devastating on his body, and I think come third round, realizing he's got a full gas tank, it loosened him up and got him there.
Absolutely, I think. See, the problem with Pettis, I think Pettis has a big problem, and I think what it boils down to, and I can relate because I have the same problem with a lot of my T-shirts. I think some people out there can.
Please make this relevant for me, because I understand how your T-shirts.
You could totally. So it's like I get no what I'm about. Yeah, you're gonna know what I'm talking about when I put this down. Is I think Anthony Pettis is too small for lightweight, but too big for featherweight.
Oh, so like you're saying, you're too big for small, but too small for regular.
Yeah. I'm too small for for medium sized shirts because they're a little too fat on me. But I'm too big for small shirts right now, so I totally agree.
7 division of 150.
Yeah, no. I'm with California State Athletic Commission right now about the 10-pound difference between weight classes that they instituted. Do I see the UFC ever bringing those in? Absolutely not, because if they did that, they would get rid of the history of the 170-pound division, because they'd have to go 155, 165, 175. They will never drop the 175 or 170-pound division, their history, because that includes one of the greatest of all time, Matt Hughes, the greatest welterweight of all time in Georges St. Pierre. They will never do it. However, I think they should, because there are a lot of fighters that struggle making 155, but are a little too undersized for 170. 165 would be perfect for them. At the same time, there's a lot of fighters that are a little undersized or a little too big for 185, but are a little undersized for 205. So if you put that 195-pound division in there, that opens up a lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
Which would have, I think, helped like somebody like Rich Franklin's career.
Oh, yeah, I think he would have been – well, he fought Shamrock at 195, I think. That was the
Well, he fought
right?
Vitor. He did like a lot of catch weights at 195, but there was no official division. So
yeah, it might have been
205. He fought Ken Shamrock at 205.
Yes, I think it was 205,
yeah. Like the WWE and all that stuff. I'm sorry, WWF at the time.
Yeah, don't mess that up, dude. World Wildlife Federation.
If I remember correctly, and a lot of listeners, a lot of listeners, I hope.
All of them,
all two or three.
5 of you. I'm more optimistic than you.
I believe that was after Tito already destroyed the myth of Ken Shamrock. So that's the opening bout of the pay-per-view, and that was between one of my favorite fighters at bantamweight and the guy that I gave a lot of credit to going into this fight, but I thought was absolutely destroyed. That is Rob Font versus Douglas Silva de Andrade. How did you have this fight going?
I had a Font via decision. I just figured he was going to be too technical, too clean, too quick, and too strong, which it kind of showed that he was.
Absolutely. He totally showed he was. I had Rob Font by decision as well because along with you, I thought he would be way more technical, way more clean. I didn't think he had the power to defeat de Andrade because I actually think Douglas Silva de Andrade is actually one of the better bantamweight fighters.
Underrated, I think, yeah.
Very underrated. He's got a 24-1-1 record. 24-2-1 record. One no contest after tonight. But going into this, I thought he was one of the better bantamweight fighters out there. The problem is consistency is not his forte. He just does not fight enough, injuries and whatnot. Rob Font is on one of the best streaks of his career ever since a loss to John Lineker, which on any other night he could win. Who knows? John Lineker.
Font gets hit a little bit. Yeah, Font gets hit a little bit, and when Whittaker touches you, he's the bantamweight Conor McGregor, man. When that hand touches you, you just kind of fall down a little bit.
So I may have been buzzed, but was I saying Whittaker or was I saying Lineker?
I believe you were saying Lineker, and I hope I was too.
So Lineker. I just want to make sure I'm putting that in.
John Lineker, not
John Lineker. Just want to make sure everybody knows. I said that I would be buzzed, and I believe my cousin, my co-host, is probably going to be buzzed for most of these as well. We like to drink our IPAs and watch fights. That's what we do.
Yes,
I like Rob Font. I like what he's doing. I like his style. He's 3-1 in the UFC, or he was 3-1 in the UFC. He's 4-1 in the UFC right now. His only loss to come into John Lineker. I like to see him. I believe he was ranked number 15 coming in. I'd like to see him probably get like at least not top 10, but maybe a number 11, number 12. I don't know exactly off the top of my head who is ranked there.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to see him in the top 10 just yet, but I want him knocking on that doorstep. He belongs there. He belongs with the top 10 guys. I think him versus the Funkmaster would be a good fight. You know, the speed and quickness and unorthodoxness, if that is such a word, that both of those two guys possess. But that's just seeing how
So I'm gonna cut you off real quick, but I'm looking at the bantamweight rankings right now. I'd like to see Rob Font. He's at number 15 right now. Like before going to this fight, you know who's sitting at number 10, which I would think would be an amazing fight. I don't know if Rob Font wins it, but I'd love to see it.
Who we got?
The man who should probably be ranked number 3 because I thought he won that fight, Marlon Moraes.
Oh man,
Marlon Moraes is ranked number 10 right now. Moraes is ranked number 10. That man should have been ranked number 3 because I thought he beat Rafael Sunsao. Granted, it was close.
I thought he beat him too, but yeah, it was close. I could see it going either way.
It wouldn't look good for it wouldn't be good for Rob Font in my opinion, but whatever. It would give Marlon Moraes a fight where the person would strike with him and he would look good. And I'm all about the Marlon Moraes. Sorry, Rob Font, but I'm a WSOF guy. We are going to talk
go,
about
Gaethje, go.
Like I was a WEC guy before. I'm a WSOF guy, and we will talk about that at the end of this podcast. Let's move on
Oh
to the
man,
prelim main event. Number 9 heavyweight Travis Hoppa Brown, Mr. Ronda Rousey, as a lot of people call him, versus number 14 ranked Alexei Oleinik.
call him that to his face.
I won't call him anything. That is a
Mr.
big man.
Mr. Brown.
But Mr. Brown.
He's a big boy.
As a big boy.
And a great fighter, and I'm so disappointed in tonight's outcome. And I don't want to say in his performance, but a little bit in Travis's performance. Something
Totally in his performance. How can he not be disappointed in his performance? Because he dropped him. He was looking good. And then you know what he did? He was looking good. He dropped Oleinik. He dropped him. He looked good. His striking was looking good. His footwork was looking good. Then all of a sudden, Travis Brown decided that, you know what? I want to keep striking like I still train with Edmund. I'm a fuckface Edmund. Fuck Edmund Farian. Fuck you. You've ruined so many people's careers, including Ronda Rousey, because you never taught her how to strike. Travis Brown, because you destroyed everything that Whitman
killed his footwork
built with him. And then you destroyed Jake fucking Ellenberger. Although Jake Ellenberger was having a little trouble, you destroyed him even worse than he already was.
Yeah.
Travis Brown I had by decision in this fight because I thought that his height, even though he had a 1-inch reach disadvantage, which is fucking nuts, I thought he would be able to stick and move with a strict grappler like Alexei Oleinik, who I am a huge fan of. The man should have been in the UFC a long time ago.
Yeah, I agree with that one.
How do you fight for 50 times and never fucking go in the UFC? I'll never know.
Was he in bed with M1? Because I know M1 and the UFC weren't very friendly with each other as far as negotiating. That might have kept him out.
Oh, fuck. About that one, I never know, but that might be a good point right there. However, first round, Travis Brown looking good. Dropped him for like the first half of the round. Dropped him looking good. All of a sudden, Oleinik gets up. After getting dropped, he gets up. Brown's apparently from the last couple fights, weak chin comes into question. Boom, drop. Oleinik takes him down, or is on top of him. Rides out the rest of the round.
Travis does a great job in his defense in that, though, in defending the choke and defending position. He did a good job in finding scrambles and in ways not to get beat on the ground, even though he was rocked in the second round. I got to give him credit there. I think the second round he was taken down and basically tapped from side control with I don't know. I don't think he had a choke on him. I just think he did. If you look at it again,
I think it was just a compression on the stomach. Is what tapped him.
It looked like he had a real good rear naked choke hit, even though he was in an unorthodox position. If you go back and look at it again, Oleinik's elbow was straight below Travis Brown's chin, and he was squeezing like nobody's business along with the body lock, but I think he had a carotid choke, and Brown knew he was about to go out, and he tapped. Those are my thoughts. I don't know. That was a tight grip on the stomach as well, but I think it was a carotid artery choke.
I know they try to say I know it looked like it, and they try to say it. I honestly think it was just Brown giving up because Travis Brown is a bitch at this point, and I know
man.
This guy who's 5'11", 160 pounds, calling a heavyweight dude who's gonna whoop his ass a bitch. It was a bitch move.
You're 5'11" when you have your risers on, right?
Exactly. I thought it was weak. I thought it was a weak tap out. Let's move on to the next fight.
I have trouble calling him weak just because I don't think. Yeah, I get what you're saying, though, man. He gave up. He had nothing left. But we're talking about Priest, Camozzi?
Yeah, we're going into the more of the prelims. That was a prelim main event on Fox Sports 1. We're going to try to troubleshoot, as they say in Techland. We're going to go through these as quick as possible.
Yeah.
I'm unlike some MMA analysts out here who call their show an hour. We're not going to go much longer than an hour. I'm not going to waste half your day talking about this shit. My last name is not Helwani. Yeah.
I don't get it. Your MMA 4 hour?
Yeah, my MMA 4 hour. Yeah,
hey,
whatever.
I'll be honest, I'm a fan. I listen to it every week.
Hey, no disrespect to him. I'm just talking shit. I love it. I love Ariel Helwani. He's the journalist in MMA. He's the man you want to
He's the Howard Cosell of MMA.
Change your fucking show's name, Ariel. You are not an hour.
It's the MMA show.
After an hour and a half of fucking listening, I am done. Seriously, dude. I can only take your fucking interview so long because you are boring. Your guests are great, but you are boring.
You don't like it when him and Rick break things down? I'm a fan of that. That's like my favorite part of the show.
I love Rick talk. Rick. Don't get me wrong. I love New York Rick, and I love when Quentin comes on and talks shit to Ariel.
Oh, that's my favorite. Erwin Overeem. Anyways, we're talking about other shows. Let's get back to ours.
The number one lightweight in the world, Khabib Nurmagomedov. Khabib's the best. So, Brian Camozzi versus Chad Laprise. Chad Laprise coming up on short notice at 170. He is a 155-pound lightweight fighter. He pretty much had his way with Camozzi, man. Apparently, Brian looks to be as shitty of a fighter as his brother Chris.
Did they have the same chest tattoo? I was trying to figure that out. It was the same tattoo across the chest. I'm like, is that Chris just cutting weight, or is that Brian? I can't tell.
Oh man, they're like he just has no takedown defense, just like his brother. I mean, the fact is, when I was watching this fight, it gave me memories of Ben Henderson versus Brandon Thatch when Ben Henderson moved up from lightweight to welterweight. Tell one guy is fit for the division, the other guy's coming up in weight. It was a huge size difference. Unfortunately, Brandon Thatch looked a lot better against Henderson than Brian Camozzi against Chad Laprise, because Brian Camozzi fucking could not handle him. Chad Laprise looked really good tonight.
He was phenomenal. He used, again, I'm a fan of people who use footwork and distance management and speed and creating angles. Those are the kind of fighters I like. Even though I love the grappling, I love it all day long. I just love those fighters who can move on the outside like that. And Laprise has that. I picked him to win via decision. I figured Camozzi, being bigger and used to taking punches from bigger guys, would be able to weather the storm. That didn't happen. Camozzi took the storm in full effect on the third round and was done. But it was a great fight by Laprise. He looked phenomenal.
And he finished it in the third round, which I thought originally was a liver shot, but it looked like he just caught him in the rib cage.
It looked too high for a liver shot. Yeah, it looked too high for. He probably broke his ribs.
He had
anyone
to have
who's had that. If anyone's ever broken ribs, it was. Yeah, great fight, man. Great fight.
Good job, Laprise. I'm a fan of yours. I don't think you'll ever be champion, but good job. Speaking of middle people that never be champion, even though they just look good half the time, Thiago Santos looked amazing against Gerald Mischart. I mean, and I'm probably got his name wrong because, like I said, I've been drinking. However, I thought Thiago Santos would TKO him in the first round. That's what I originally had picked. Slip of the finger changed mine on accident. I didn't notice it before I saved it. That's what I thought. I didn't get points. We'll talk about that later. We'll do this quick, though. Was anything really that surprising? I mean, Santos is pretty athletic. Mischart had the submissions, but again, Santos is athleticism. He looks good against lesser competition when he gets a rise in competition. When he gets fights a little better competition, he does not look great at all.
Yeah, I thought Mischart was going to be able to weather the first round storm, most of the second round storm, and get into Santos's gas tank, take him down, and submit him late in the second.
You would think that, that would be I wouldn't have been surprised that happened just because of what Eric Spicely did to Thiago Santos, and I think Mearshart is a better version of Eric Spicely. So apparently Santos learned from that fight. I think he was just a little he underestimated Spicely before, and that's what caused the loss. If him and Spicely fought again, I don't think Santos would underestimate him, and I think he'd finish that fight like he did this fight, which surprised me because Mearshart has a chin.
Yeah, he does.
He just stopped moving. He did. He just stopped moving.
It might have been the short notice, right? If I recall correctly, wasn't he short notice replacement?
I'm not sure about Mearshart. I'm not sure if he did. He might have been. I'll have to look that up again. But
if not, then there's no fucking excuse.
Yeah, no excuse. You take the fight. You accept the fight. You better show up in shape, motherfucker.
Exactly.
Thiago Santos looking great. We'll move on to a guy who I'm actually a fan of, even though I don't think he'll ever be a champion. But ever since he made his UFC debut against Alan Jouban,
that was a good fight.
Remember the name Muhammad against another guy who was a fan of in Strikeforce, Jordan Mean. Jordan Mean, to me, he retired for about 2 years, and he's come back, and I believe he's winless now.
Mm-hmm.
I think he should have stayed retired because the man has just not looked the same. He doesn't have that killer instinct he used to have. I don't. He might be better off just moving to Bellator or a Pro Fighters League, formerly World Series of Fighting. Belal Muhammad looked good. His ground game looked great. His striking looked pretty good. He did what he had to do. I had him winning 29-28. I thought he lost the first round. He took it up after that and handled business. Takedowns, ground and pound.
Yeah, I think Mean looked really uncomfortable in the octagon today. It was almost like it was his first fight back. He seemed slow and a little tentative, and I thought that he was going to come back like the Mean of old, finally get the ring rust out, get back to it, but no. So
absolutely.
Hats off to Muhammad. He did a great job. I think that shows his growth and experience as a fighter, and I like to see him move up through the ranks. I think he's got a lot of potential.
Yeah, that knockout to Vicente Luque though has me a little worried because that guy's not really known as a knockout artist. At least he wasn't at that time. So I don't see much from Muhammad. So on the very first two fights before that, on the prelims, on the Fight Pass prelims, we had 4 debuting fighters. We're going to go through these quick so we can start talking about the next card. At featherweight, both fighters that don't really fight at bantamweight, Cody Stamann and Taylor Ware. Did you get a chance to see any of these fights? Because Stamann absolutely, in my mind, thanks to his ground and pound, dominated Taylor Ware.
Yeah, due to some unforeseen difficulties, my Fight Pass streaming did not work, so I was unable to see the first 2 fights of the night.
That's fine. That's always fine. I understand because the UFC, it happens sometimes. Cody Stamann, both these fighters, especially Cody Stamann, he's the best. He's one of the better bantamweight prospects in the world right now. He's now 15-1. He to me, he dominated this fight. He got caught with a couple of punches. He dominated this fight, won by decision. In the first fight, light heavyweight bout, another couple of guys who were fighting above their weight because both these fights were short notice. James Boknovic versus Trevin Giles. Trevin Giles is now 10-0. This dude is a fucking beast. He can granted Boknovic also was making his debut, but the fact that this dude was sitting on a stool in between the first and second round and the crowds were yelling woo and he was yelling back and woo, his presence, his presence and his just knowing exactly what he's in. I can't think of the word right now. Sorry. But his presence and just knowing exactly what's at stake. His skills are ridiculous. He absolutely dominated this man. I had 10-8 in the first round. And then he went out and absolutely destroyed Boknovic in the second round. He throws him down. I think it's a great debut. I know it's at light heavyweight. He's going to drop the middleweight because that's where he fights, thanks to the middleweight excuse me. He fights at middleweight, but he fought at light heavyweight thanks to a short notice debut. I think he's a man to look forward to in the future. On that note,
yes, sir,
Mr. Hudson, we are going to talk about the very next fight.
214.
I think we're gonna go with the. The very next fight. I think we're
way
going
off.
I think you're way off there, buddy. We're gonna go with Gunnar Nelson versus Santiago Ponzinibbio.
Yeah.
Now, Ponzinibbio is a guy that I like a lot. I think his striking's great. I think his takedown defense is great. I think he's one of those guys that will maybe crack top 10, but he won't be a champion. At the same time, Gunnar Nelson, training partner of Conor McGregor, which I think makes him a little more overrated than he really is, because we all remember how he was undefeated and hyped up his next best thing until Rick Story shut him the fuck down.
Gritty old vet.
Yeah, I mean, I think Nelson's great. He looked great against Albert Tumanov. He looked great against Alan Jouban, but at the same time, Jouban does not have great striking defense, and Tumanov does not have great takedown defense. However, aside from Damian Maia, I believe Nelson's one of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners in the welterweight division. How do you see this fight going, brother?
I see Gunnar using his little karate stance and outside game to bring Ponzinibbio in to overcommit. Gunnar takes him down and submits in first, second round.
I have no argument for that. I have absolutely no argument for that. That's pretty much how I see it going. I think Gunnar submits him.
Yeah.
Again, I believe second round. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, Ponzinibbio's not going to get over aggressive and extend himself too soon. I think he'll bait him in. Gunnar will bait him in, and by second round he'll take the bait, and it'll be done once they hit the mat.
Absolutely. For the sake of keeping this thing as short as possible, though, we're not going through all the fights, but we're going to go through some of the top fights for the next card, and then we'll record again. We'll record again for the next fight, after the next fight, see how it happens. By the way, everybody, this is going to happen. This next fight is going to happen on July 16th, 2017, at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. That is a 10 a.m. Pacific Time start.
It's on a Sunday also. It is
on a Sunday, which
yes,
I hate.
Throws everybody off.
At least it's not a 4 a.m. start time like some of the fights the UFC puts on. Jesus Christ, people. Like, I feel bad for the East Coast people, aside from these daytime shows. We're on the West Coast, so, that's why we're able to record this. So let's go to the co-main event of that fight night, Nelson versus Ponzinibbio fight. We have someone who should be fighting, in my mind, at the 125-pound division, and as soon as that flyweight division shows up, which will be happening on the next Ultimate Fighter, Joanne Jojo Calderwood versus who I think is a future champion because she is a beast, Cynthia Calvillo, man. How do you see this fight going?
So this is a tough one. If JoJo has a good weight cut, it's her all day long. She'll use her size, her strength. She'll wear Cynthia down, and it'll be her decision. If she has a bad weight cut, she's not going to be able to make it to the third round, and Cynthia Calvillo wins via TKO. Those are my thoughts.
So from the get-go, I'm going to disagree with you, and I think Cynthia Calvillo, like I said, Calvillo is a beast. She is a future champion. I think she's one of those people that could probably take Joanna down eventually and ground and pound her. I'm not saying she's going to beat, just so you people know, she ain't going to beat the champion. I'm not saying that's what she's going to do.
You better buy in your P's and Q's when you're talking about JoJo, exactly. Buddy. Come on now.
I don't talk about my girl JoJo, even though I think Claudia's a better fighter. If she had a better gas tank, that's not here nor there.
That doesn't make sense. I'm a faster runner than you if I was quicker than you. It's part of fighting. Gas tank counts, brother.
Well, I'm saying she can fight better. If she had a gas tank, she would prove it over more rounds that she could fight better. Joanna just has a better gas tank. So
I understand this is uncensored, but I want to make a funny-ass joke, dude. Okay, I won't do it.
No, go ahead. It's uncensored. Take it, man.
I was going to say, if I had a 12-inch dick, I'd satisfy my wife better, but I don't. That was inappropriate.
Yeah. Don't ever be censored on this shit. All right, no, but I do have Calvillo taking her down, and I do have Calvillo submitting her in the first round. I think it would be quick, and I think it's going to be painless. I think Calvillo, like I said,
First
is one of
round,
the
huh?
best fighter. Yeah, absolutely. I think she's one of the best fighters. The fact is, she took 2 fights in the UFC on short notice. Her first fight, I believe, was less than 2 weeks' notice, and then she took another one less than a month's notice. Both finishes, and she's going to do the same thing to Calder Wood. She is a beast. We're going to move on to the fight underneath that. Before we end this podcast with a couple of quick words. But the reason why I want to talk about this one, it's at lightweight because it's got 2 of my favorite fighters in the lightweight division right now. Stevie Ray coming off of a unanimous decision victory, I believe, over Joe Lauzon. A lot of people were not happy about that. I agreed with it. Joe Lauzon dominated the first round to a 10-8. Stevie Ray won the second round and then dominated the third round to a 10-8. I believe the correct decision was made with I believe it was a 28-27. Versus Paul Felder, who hits fucking hard.
Very hard.
However, I believe Stevie Ray is a little more technical. I'm going to take that back. A lot more technical. And I'm going to pick Stevie Ray by decision.
That's a tough one for me to call. I think that Felder's going to find an opening for that wicked power. I think he's going to put him down in the third.
I'm not going to really throw in an argument for that. It's very possible. Felder's got some sick striking. He's some sick power.
Yeah, and he finds ways, and he's hard to put away. He's got a good solid chin.
Absolutely. So before we end this podcast, I wanted to basically this is just a review, but at the same time we're going to talk about some news that was happening in MMA. There's a couple of things I want to talk about. Mostly one that we were talking about, which is the Mighty Mouse Demetrius Johnson situation and how we feel about that. I don't know about anybody else. If you've listened to what's happened and listened to Dana White's bullshit words, but I tend to agree with everything Mighty Mouse says. I don't believe the flyweight division is as marketed as it could be. I don't care if Dana marketed an entire Ultimate Fighter around Mighty Mouse. The Ultimate Fighter is a dated concept. Nobody fucking watches it.
Yeah, I marketed something that fails all around you. So this thing that doesn't work anymore, I'm going to build it around you. How's that sound?
Exactly. Thank you very much. Yeah. That is not a measuring stick for how much you market somebody. The fact of the matter is, you fucking went out there and told everybody that this man was the best fighter in the world. As soon as he decided that he didn't want to fight the person you wanted him to fight, a dude that has never made the 125-pound fucking division before, you want to go around and talk about how he's not the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. In the same interview, you want to say he's not the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, and then later on say that he is the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Yeah, we all watched that interview. We all saw you contradict yourself. Dana White, you're full of shit.
Well, as much as I'd like to find an argument with you, because it's fun for me, I can't find one in that statement. It's completely accurate. Demetrius Johnson is the pound-for-pound champ. He makes a very valid point. Why should I fight TJ Dillashaw, a former champ at a weight class above, who's never made this weight? And what he said is let him come down, let him make weight, fight somebody, prove that he can fight at this weight class, and I'll take him. Borg has shown he can fight at this weight class. Borg has worked his way up and fought the right guys and is the next guy that I haven't beat twice already in the top 5. So bring him on. I agree with Demetrius. If the belts are supposed to mean something, you can't just let a guy. And again, in all fairness, TJ Dillashaw is my favorite fighter. Again, my favorite fighter by far, but I don't think he deserved a shot to go down and fight him. If he still had the belt in his hand, that's another story. Unfortunately, because he's a former champ, it doesn't count.
I totally agree. And at the same time, we will both acknowledge the fact that Roy Borg has missed weight in the UFC twice. But the fact is, he has made the weight at least once, which is something TJ Dillashaw has never done.
Yep,
and
I agree.
If DJ is true on the fact that he said, hey, that's fine, I'll take the fight. I want some compensation financially if he doesn't make the weight. And you're saying no?
Yeah, you're going to promise me he's going to make the weight, and then when I try to make it matter to you, you say, no?
Yeah, exactly. You should just automatically say, yeah, for sure. You know, hey, you know what? We get it. If he doesn't make the weight, here's the compensation. Because you know what? Yeah, sure. He's gonna. If I think personally, he beats T.J. Dillashaw. I do. But he doesn't get that title defense. Sure, he's got to wait till another fight. He wants a consecutive title defense record. It's consecutive. Yeah. The fact is that if you have that non-title fight, it is no longer consecutive because he's not in that many title fights in a row. I totally agree with Demetrius Johnson. I'm on his side on this, and this is not me being a Dana White hater because I think Dana White's done a lot for the sport, but I'm at the same time I hate to blame politics into this at the same time. Dana White, like Donald Trump, need to stay the fuck off of Twitter and shut the fuck up and do your job. Just do your job. Do your job. Just be who you were supposed to be. That's all I'm going to say.
Dana White's supposed to promote fights. He's promoted this fight, whichever one it may be.
You don't discredit one of your best fighters. You don't think he's a draw. You make him a fucking draw. You make him a draw.
He is a draw to anyone who knows fighting, but...
Exactly. But unfortunately, he's not a draw to the casuals. Unfortunately, he's not a shit talker like Conor. He doesn't have Dana's dick in his mouth like Conor does. You just... it drives me nuts. All right, but before we, one last topic before we're going to go off a little over an hour. The elephant of the room when it comes to the MMA and boxing world, Mr. Hudson.
Yes,
Conor McGregor versus Floyd Money Mayweather. How do you see this fight going?
I take Floyd's got about 3 or 4 rounds till he figures McGregor's timing out and McGregor's distance, and then he basically shuts him down. It goes a decision, and Mayweather wins. I think the first 3 rounds.
Do you think McGregor has a legitimate shot, boxing-wise, with 10-ounce gloves?
Yes. He has a puncher's chance. If anybody does, he has a puncher's chance. He's got power, man. Everyone who's ever said that was the first thing that Nate Diaz said when they first asked him before he had a chance to kind of rebut his statement was, what did you get from McGregor that you didn't expect? And he said that little fucker hits hard.
I do remember that interview, and I acknowledge the interview at the same time. Those are 4-ounce gloves, and the question of whether the power will transfer to 6 ounces more is a question. I mean, granted, McGregor hits hard as fuck. I don't think he hits as hard as people think he hits. I think, like McGregor says himself, it's more precision than it is power. I believe him when he says that. Absolutely precision. However, if that's the case and that's what McGregor thinks, how do you hit somebody with precision that will never be there for you to hit?
How do you hit what you can't hit?
Exactly.
Well, that's where precision comes in. Yeah.
But he can't because, as much as McGregor thinks he's precision when it comes to his striking, in MMA, absolutely, 100%. Boxing, McGregor will fucking eat his precision for breakfast in my mind. I don't think Conor even has a puncher's chance, in my opinion. I think this is an absolute
0% chance.
I give him a 0% chance. I think Floyd Mayweather is one of the best boxers in the world. A lot of people will not agree with that because they hate him because he's one of the best ever. Because he's more defensive and because they find him boring. That's absolutely correct. He's not a very exciting fighter.
He's wins
very
fights.
Defensive. He's a counter fighter and he knows how to avoid taking shots. I believe he is the best boxer in the entire history of boxing because he does not take shots. I think if you take his skills with his size and match him up against any other boxer with his skills and make them the same exact size, Floyd Mayweather stays undefeated. So how am I going to give anybody who has never boxed before professionally with an 0-0 record even a chance to beat Floyd Mayweather? I think it's asinine, and I'm not trying to discredit anybody that likes McGregor. I think it's asinine. I really do. I think Floyd Mayweather is going to embarrass him. Everybody tries to say that Floyd's been retired. Oh, he hasn't boxed in 2 years or so or more, but it's not the first time he's taken 2 years off, and he still came back and dominated. He's fucking taking shots from people that hit harder with 10-ounce gloves than McGregor does, and I think Mayweather is going to embarrass the sport of MMA. Maybe not in MMA in general, but just Conor McGregor and make him come crawling back. Yeah, I went on a tangent. Rebuttal,
I know
sir.
you did. That was funny as hell because I think you're wacky. Everyone has a puncher's chance, dude, and if anybody does, it's McGregor.
I don't
He's
think
nothing
so. In
that
boxing,
he's ever
MMA
seen.
they do. In boxing, they don't.
Yeah, we'll see. Mayweather's never seen someone who stands like that. Never seen anyone who moves like that, who has angles like that, who has footwork like that. It's going to take him some time to figure it out. He will figure it out. He's that good, but it's going to take him some time.
Okay, so
And
we're
he'll
going to
have
get back.
respect for his
I'm
power.
going to. Okay, so Oscar De La Hoya is one of the best boxers in the entire history of boxing. Correct.
Sure.
He won the first 4 or 5 rounds against Mayweather, and then all of a sudden Mayweather had his timing and figured him out, and it was game fucking over. That's one of the best boxers in history. McGregor is not one of the best boxers
McGregor's
in
not
history.
a boxer.
Exactly.
So Mayweather has seen a guy who stands like the best
I
boxer
don't buy
in the
that.
world.
I don't buy that. I
He's
hate
seen
that.
guys who stand.
I hate that argument.
I'm telling you, it's going to take him a couple rounds to figure it out.
I hate that
And
argument.
he'll figure it out.
So, because of the fact that Conor is training for a boxing fight, he's going to try to be a boxer.
No, he's not.
But Mayweather's going to see it. He's going to slip and jab. I think he's going to embarrass Conor. I really do. And honestly,
if John Kavanaugh is,
I hope he
Go ahead.
does because I want Conor to get embarrassed so he comes crawling back to MMA with his
back
tail
to
tucked
MMA,
between
then
his
gets
legs.
embarrassed by Khabib. I know your whole dream.
No, not even Khabib. I just want him to defend his title, a title in his entire life.
He's
One
never defended
fucking
the title. Why would you
Never.
expect him to do
One
that?
fucking title. Conor McGregor, defend a fucking title, man. Seriously.
Hey, that's not what he does.
Apparently
He doesn't defend
not.
titles. He takes them.
Yeah, defend a title. Even if you lose defending an MMA title, I'll respect you more. So,
He's going to make his friggin' $100 million, and we will never see him in the octagon.
unfortunately, I think you're right, sir. And I think at this point, we're going to have to call this an end to the very first MMA to the Max with Robert Taylor and Joe Hudson. Joe, do you have any parting words? Are you any fights coming up in this month you're really looking forward to?
I really do want to see Jones Cormier with everything that Jones has gone through. I think it's going to be a tougher fight than we all thought. I think Cormier is going to look great, but Jones is going to take it. But I really am looking forward to that fight. I know it's the trendy one, the cute one, the cool one, but that's the one that I really want to see.
There's nothing wrong with that, sir. And we actually tried to get tickets, so they sold out in 2 months.
Yeah,
Or,
I know.
Sorry, 2 months, 2 days.
2 days.
Yeah, 2 days, motherfuckers. On that same card, before we go, I just also want to say that actually the fight I'm looking forward to most, even though Don Cerrone, Robbie Lawler got added to that card, I'm looking more forward to Tyron Woodley versus Damian Maia, just because that is Damian Maia is finally getting his title shot that he most surely deserves. I think it's a bad matchup for him, but at the same time, he's taken people that are bad matchups for him and came out on top. Love Damian Maia. I think he's one of the best in the world. I think Tyron Woodley is very underrated. I think people give him a really bad rap just because they don't like him. But and I personally don't like him, but I think he's easily one of the best in the world as well. But I can't wait, man. I can't wait. Joe, do you have any type of social media you want to get out here? Facebook or Twitter? I mean, I know we're going a little off. Facebook's got a little weird.
Yeah, I don't have a Facebook. I've got a Twitter, but I don't even know what the heck the name is.
So okay, so I'm gonna hit you up then. We'll
figure that out.
Get your Twitter in check for the next time, sir.
Yeah.
But if you want to talk to
Yeah,
Joe Hudson on Facebook, that will be www.facebook.com/JoeHud45. That is JoeHud45. Get a hold of the guy. Tell him how you feel about his comments or my comments.
And yeah, my Twitter handle also is JHUD45. So there you go.
There you go, JHUD45 on Twitter. If you want to get hold of me, Robert Taylor, on Facebook, that is facebook.com/TheRockRobster, spelled exactly how you think it would. And on Twitter, I am at XRockXRobsterX. Let us know how you feel about our conversation, how you feel about the fights. Let us know if you think we're a bunch of fucking dumbasses. I don't give a shit. Let us know how stupid you think we are. And whatever. We're just a couple of drunk dudes just fucking talking MMA, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. So we'll be back next week for I believe it's next week for the next UFC fight. This is our
Next Sunday.
first next Sunday. Ooh, yeah. At least it'll be early. We are so for Joe Hudson, I am Robert Taylor. This is MMA to the max. Everybody, take care.
See ya.
Well, I think he's going to end it here soon.
He fell asleep, dude. It's too late.
I hope so. No, he told me like
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.